Gents, Sprezzatura. Understand this, there's a man who walks into the room and owns it without looking like he tried. His jacket's a bit rumpled, his tie's slightly loose, he's even got one cuff that's unbuttoned. Somehow he looks better than the bloke who spent an hour getting everything perfect. You've seen this man, you've probably resented him even a little because it looks like luck, like some men are just born with it. They're not. What that man has is a 500-year-old Italian trick, and it has a name. It's called Sprezzatura. And here's the part nobody tells you. That effortless look is the most deliberate thing he does. It's engineered top to bottom, and it can be learned. In this video, I'm gonna show you what Sprezzatura actually is, where it comes from, the specific moves that create it, and the line you can't cross before effortless turns into just plain scruffy. By the end, you'll know how to look like you're not trying on purpose. So, here we go. We've got two gentlemen here. One we're gonna call Steve, and one we're gonna call Wolfgang, okay? Now, let's start with the man himself, Steve, because you need to see the picture clearly before I explain the trick behind it. These two men are at the same event, okay? Both in tailoring. The first one is immaculate. Everything pressed, everything aligned. His tie is dead center. His pocket square folded like origami. There's not a thread out of place. He looks good, but he also looks a bit stiff, like the clothes are wearing him, like one spilled drink would end his whole night. The second man, Wolfgang, is put together but relaxed about it. The tailoring fits beautifully, but his tie sits a touch loose. His hair isn't perfect. His watch is half underneath his cuff, and every eye in the room goes to him. Why? That's the question this whole video answers. Because on paper, the first man did everything right. He followed every rule. He spent more time, probably spent more money, and the room still hands the win to the second bloke. It feels unfair, and it feels like magic. And men have been quietly gritting their teeth at that guy forever. He looks like he rolled out of bed blessed. He looks like he doesn't care, and yet he clearly, obviously, has it handled. That combination, doesn't seem to care, clearly has it handled, is one of the most magnetic things a man can project. But here's what's actually going on, and it's the first truth to bank. Perfection reads as effort, and effort past a certain point reads as anxiety, okay? When every detail on a man is flawless, we don't think, what a waste, we think he's trying very hard. And trying very hard or trying too hard whispers that he needs this to work. The relaxed man sends the opposite message, okay? The small imperfections say, I don't need your approval. I was on my way somewhere anyway. It's confidence communicated through cloth, okay? And people respond to that signal before they've consciously registered a single detail of what either man is wearing. Now here's the twist, and it's the whole reason we're here. The second man, Wolfgang, is not lucky and he is not careless. Every one of those accidents on him is a decision. The loose tie, chosen. The rumpled linen, chosen. The unbuttoned cuff, chosen. He worked out something the first man hasn't yet, that the final step of dressing well is hiding the work. And that idea is so old and so powerful that the Italians gave it a name 500 years ago, which is exactly where we go next. Sprezzatura, okay? That's the word, Sprezzatura. Say it with me, Sprezzatura. It's Italian, and it was coined exactly almost 500 years ago by a bloke called Baldassare Castiglione in a book called The Book of the Courtier. Now stay with me because this isn't a history lecture. This is the origin of the weapon, okay? Castiglione's book was basically a manual for men trying to get ahead in the royal courts of Renaissance Italy, okay? The most cutthroat social arena in the earth at that time. Think of it as the world's first guide to executive presence, okay? Written when getting it wrong didn't cost you a promotion, it would cost you your head. And in that book, Castiglione named the one quality that separated the men who rose from the men who didn't, and he called it Sprezzatura, okay? He defined it as a kind of studied carelessness, the art of making whatever you do look like it costs you nothing. His actual advice was to practice everything, master everything, and then conceal all the effort completely, so that whatever you do appears to come without thought, almost by accident. You hide the machinery, you show only the result. The courtiers who mastered this looked naturally brilliant, effortlessly graceful, like they were born to it. The ones who let the effort show look like strivers, and strivers, well, they were dinner back then, okay? Now think about why that worked. Because human nature hasn't moved on or hasn't moved an inch in 5 centuries. When something looks effortless, we assume the ability runs deep. If that's what he does without trying, imagine what he's capable of. Visible effort caps you, it shows the ceiling. Concealed effort suggests there's more in the tank, and people are drawn to the man with more in the tank. Castiglione understood that the appearance of ease itself is a display of power. It's why the best athletes look casual doing things that would break the rest of us. The ease is the flex. And here's why this matters to you. Standing in front of your wardrobe 500 years later, the arena changed, but the game didn't. The boardroom, the bar, the wedding, the first date, they're all still courts, and everyone in them is still reading everyone else. The man who looks like he agonized over his outfit broadcasts that the room's opinion owns him. But the man with Sprezzatura broadcasts that he was already complete before he walked in. Same clothes, entirely different message. So the question becomes obvious. How do you actually build that look without tipping into the scruffy side over here? Okay. That's the rest of this video, and it starts with tearing down the lie that any of this is effortless. Look at this equation, 100% effort, but you showed 10%, right? This is the biggest misunderstanding about this whole idea, because it's the one that ruins men who only half learn it. Sprezzatura doesn't mean less effort, it means hidden effort. Those are opposites, and mixing them up is the difference between looking like that man across the room and looking like you slept in your car, okay? The relaxed look is not the absence of work, it's the last coat of paint over a mountain of work you never let anyone see. Walk through what's actually underneath that effortless man, because none of it is an accident. The jacket sits so casually on him, tailored properly to his exact shoulders. That's why it can hang relaxed without hanging wrong. The rumpled linen shirt is good cloth, the kind that creases soft and rich. We've talked about this. Cheap linen crumples like a receipt. His crumples like money. The loose tie is a proper tie in a proper knot that he then loosened deliberately 1 centimeter. The hair that's not quite perfect, cut well every few weeks so that not quite perfect still has a shape. Strip any one of those foundations away and the whole look collapses from relaxed into rough. Now, here's the way to hold it in your head. Sprezzatura is 100 units of effort, right? With 10 units showing. The stiff man spends 100 and he shows 100, okay? And the effort is what you notice. The scruffy man spends 5 and he shows 5. He looks shit, he looks terrible, okay? And the neglect is what you notice. The Sprezzatura man spends the full 100, okay? On fit, on cloth, on grooming, on knowing the rules cold. And then he spends his final effort making it look like 60, okay? The gap between what he put in and what he appears to have put in, that gap is the charisma, okay? It's his charisma. The gap is the whole trick. And this is why Sprezzatura is actually the highest form of the thing I'm always on about, the level up choice, okay? The give up reflex says, I can't be bothered, and it calls the result relaxed. But you can't relax a standard you've never had. Real ease is earned on the other side of mastery, never instead of it. A man has to know exactly how the tie should sit before loosening it means anything. Capiche? He has to own clothes that fit before wearing them loosely, which reads as his choice. Sloppy is skipping the work. Sprezzatura is doing all of it and then wearing it lightly. Same result to a lazy eye, opposite results in a room full of people. So now that you know what's really under the bonnet, let's get practical. The specific moves that create the look one by one. So the actual moves. These are specific, they're small, and each one only works because everything underneath it is already right. Okay, so let's talk about move 1, which is the tie. And this is the classic. Tie it properly, a good knot, the right length, then loosen it 1 centimeter and let the knot sit a touch off center. Not hanging, not undone, loosened. It says the day has been lived in, okay? Now, the same family is leave the collar button undone under the tie on the right occasion, or skip the tie and let a proper collar stand open, okay? The message is always the same. I know the rule and I'm at ease enough to bend it. Now, move 2 is the wrist and the cuff. Unbutton one cuff or push the sleeves of a jacket or knit up your forearm like you're about to do something. Let the watch sits half under the cuff instead of displaying it like it's in a shop window. You can have a scarf thrown once around the neck, not arranged, thrown. These read as a man in motion, mid-life, on his way somewhere, rather than a man who assembled himself in a mirror and is now trying not to move. Okay, move 3. The deliberate mismatch. And this one takes the most nerve. One element that doesn't formally belong, done with total confidence, okay? You can have a rugged watch on a formal rig, or a dress watch with a casual one, a camp collar shirt instead of a sharp blazer, or under a sharp blazer rather, suede loafers when everyone else went shiny and stiff, statement jewelry on an otherwise controlled base. This mismatch works because everything around it is correct. One broken rule inside 9 kept rules reads as personality. My going out look runs on exactly this. The flash lands because the foundation is disciplined. If you break one rule at a time, break it like you mean it. Okay, now move 4, and this one's the least visible, but it's also the most important. Rehearse it, then abandon it. Get the outfit right at home, mirror, adjustments, all the fussing you like, doors closed. Then walk out and do not touch it again. No tugging at the jacket in the lift, no checking your reflection in a shop window, no fixing the collar every 30 minutes. The fussing is what betrays the effort, and hiding the effort is the entire game. Castiglione's rule, all the work happens backstage. Once you're in public, the performance is that there is no performance. Now those 4 and you've got the look, right? But there's a cliff edge right next to all of this, and men fall off of it constantly. So before you touch any of these moves, you need to know exactly where the line is. So, gents, now the cliff edge, because there is one and it's closer than you think. Somewhere between that man across the room and a man who just looks like a mess, there's a line, okay? And if you cross it, and all the same moves, the loose tie, the push sleeves, the mismatch, stop reading as confidence and start reading as neglect. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The moves themselves are identical on both sides of the line. A loose tie on one man, the Sprezzatura man, reads as charisma. The same loose tie on another man is a bloke coming apart at 4 in the afternoon. What actually decides which side you're on? There's 3 things, okay? And they're your safety checks. First is foundation. Sprezzatura is one imperfection sitting on a base of things done right. The fit, the cloth, the grooming, the shoes. One loose thread on a strong rope is character. 3 loose threads and the rope's just fraying. The maths is simple. One deliberate imperfection, okay? Everything else correct. The moment you've got 2 or 3 casual liberties running at once, nobody reads any of them as deliberate anymore. Now, the second is cleanliness, of course. Cleanliness is never the imperfection, okay? Rumpled is in bounds, dirty never is. Creased linen, yes. Stained linen, no. Messy hair done on purpose, yes. Unwashed hair, no. The imperfections of Sprezzatura are imperfections of arrangement, never of care. The second something looks uncared for rather than unarranged, you've left charisma and you've entered decline, okay? Now, the third is the real tell, and it has to be stable. The Sprezzatura's man's loose tie sits exactly that loose all night. He sets it, he forgets it, it's done, right? But the scruffy man's tie keeps slipping, and he keeps half fixing it, and the fixing is what gives him away. If your imperfection needs maintenance, it's not an imperfection, it's a malfunction, okay? Set it once at home, then it's finished. This connects straight back to move 4, hands off in public, okay? Rehearse, then hands off. Stability is what separates a choice from an accident, and the room can tell the difference at 50 paces. And if you're ever unsure which side of the line something falls on, there's a 10-second test. Ask yourself, would this look intentional to a stranger who's never met me? Not to your mates who know you're into clothes, to a complete stranger. Across a room with one glance. The loose tie over a crisp shirt and a fitted jacket, obviously intentional. The loose tie over a wrinkled shirt and a jacket that doesn't fit, obviously is a man having a bad week. Same tie, the context is doing all the talking. When in doubt, pull the imperfection back and keep the foundation, because a man slightly too put together still wins the night over a man slightly too far gone who doesn't, okay? So let me bring this all back home, okay? I'm recapping. Let's put the whole picture back together. That man across the room, the one who owns it without looking like he tried, you now know his entire playbook. 500 years old, named by an Italian who was coaching men through the deadliest social game in history. And it comes down to one sentence: do all of the work, then hide all of the work. The tailoring, the cloth, the grooming, mastered backstage. One deliberate imperfection, worn out, front, stable, clean, confident, and hands off for the rest of the night. And I want you to see what Sprezzatura really is underneath the clothes, because this is the part that stays with you after the video ends. It's the outward sign of a man who has nothing left to prove, right? The stiff, perfect man, Steve, okay, is asking the room a question: am I acceptable? Did I get it right? Do you approve? The Sprezzatura man is making a statement: I was complete before I walked in. That's why the room hands him the win every time. People aren't responding to his tie, they're responding to the self-possession the tie is broadcasting. The clothes are just the transmitter, okay? Which means that this was never really a trick about clothing at all. It's the level up choice wearing its best disguise, okay? Anyone can be perfect if they're anxious enough, and anyone can be sloppy if they've given up. The narrow path in the middle, mastery, worn lightly, that takes a man who's actually done the work and actually trusts himself, okay? That's why it can't be faked from nothing. And that's exactly why it's worth having. The room can smell borrowed confidence a mile off. Earned ease is unmistakable. So here's your move this week. One outfit you already own and already trust. Get it right at home. Every detail, take your time, doors closed, okay? Then pick your one imperfection. Loosen the tie, push up the sleeves, right? Wear the one thing that doesn't quite belong. Set it, walk out, and do not touch it again all day. That's it. That's the whole assignment, yeah? One rehearsed imperfection, worn with total indifference. Do it once and you'll feel the shift. Do it for a month and people will start asking what changed. Nothing changed, gents. You just stop showing the effort. Capiche? Get some.